What do you want to start? Do you want to start with our Flagstaff weekend, or is that just...
Yeah, sure. What do we do?
We went to Flagstaff.
I know.
We just had some relaxy time. There wasn't anything planned on the beer front.
Hey,
However,
Rob.
Andrew Bauman.
How you doing today?
Great.
Welcome to the Arizona Beer Frontier podcast.
Yes.
Where sometimes the beer finds you.
Oh, we're doing the tagline in the front, huh?
I just threw it in there. Why not?
Sure.
Hey,
I want to caution you, though.
yeah.
This is not a beer podcast. This is a podcast about beer.
Ah, true.
Arizona is a wildly beautiful place, brimming with over 100 brewing companies. I'm Rob Fulmer, the Executive Director of the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild. I'm joined by Deputy Director Andrew Bauman. Together we cover the state, bringing you the best of what's happening at our breweries and beyond. Welcome to Arizona Beer Frontier. This is not a beer podcast. This is a podcast about beer.
Ah, true. And this week it is a podcast about a whole bunch of stuff. Let's start with our little visit up to Flag this weekend.
Yeah, and again, this was, sometimes we go there specifically for a beer thing. And my wife, Brenda, asked, is this one of those things where we go up there and there's a bunch of beer stuff that you didn't tell us about? And I said, no, of course not.
Of course you're full of shit.
No, I had no idea. I didn't actually.
I surprised everyone.
I said to her, there is a end of summer party at Historic. It's outside. They open up the parking lot a little bit. A lot of people attend. There's usually a food truck.
And that was a blast.
Yeah. There's nothing required. You don't have to show up at a certain time.
Right.
And generally speaking, the locals there are people, who I don't know very well, but some of them recognize me or whatever. But it's not like, oh, I'm going there because a bunch of brewery people are going to be there and it's all.
And then what really happened?
Well, I had forgotten that it was the Ash bus trip.
The Arizona Society of Homebrewers, the
Right.
largest homebrew club in Arizona.
Yes. And probably still in the top 25 in the country. Maybe 10,
for
maybe
sure.
10,
Yeah.
in terms of number of members, by a lot of metrics. Also winners of the Homebrew Club of the Year.
A couple of years running, yeah.
And they have had Ninkasi winners.
Yeah.
Brewers that have won the ultimate number of medals and accolades to put them at the very top.
And mead maker of the year.
Yes.
A couple times.
Yes. Anyway, it's an annual bus trip, and it fell off my radar. And now that I have a place up there, I'm usually like, well, I don't ever want to be on that bus because it's all kinds of fun on the way up, but it's all kinds of sad on the way back.
Yes, it's true. It was 3 hours probably this year because of the traffic.
Yeah, it was move-in
weekend for some students at NAU, so it was a busy town.
Yeah, so we had some fun. We didn't do all the beer things. It was we only just met them at Wanderlust. Met the new owners of Wanderlust.
Mm-hmm.
Briefly talked. They were pretty busy. We'll have to follow up with a show with them.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah. Weekend.
I went. Oh, it rained a little bit.
It did.
And yeah, I went and visited my son's new place where he lives, so that was fun. And Bonnie and I went to Grand Canyon for a hot minute, had a nice beer there, and that was it.
Right.
Good weekend.
Yeah.
Lots of walking dogs in the park, stuff like that.
Sorry, I'm looking for some things that happened yesterday.
Oh.
A little distracted here, but because we had a meeting concerning NAU, oddly enough, and our integration into their HRM program, which is, and in my field, it's human resources management, but it's hotel
restaurant management,
Yeah.
hospitality,
so
restaurant management.
So that's why I always get that messed up. But we went there, and then we decided to go to Trevor's, which we had never been.
Correct.
And we started going to the north one. I'm like, wait, this is ridiculous. Why would I want to drive 15 or 20 minutes?
Oh, do you know what a great decision that was? Because
there was
the 202 at McDonald was closed.
Yeah, there was some sort of crazy accident.
Crazy.
So instead of going 15 more minutes north at 2:45, we put ourselves back further south where both of us were headed anyway. And then, we missed that giant accident that they closed down for hours.
Yeah.
We would have been, but I went, sorry, I'm looking for this. I went to,
100 Mile Brewing Company
100 Mile Brewing Company.
on your way home after Trevor's.
Yeah, and I talked to Sue, who's the owner, and Todd was there, also involved with the organization there. And Sue's like, hey, I want to show you our new event space. You haven't seen it yet. And you have to go through the brewery to get to it. They have an outside entrance, but it's so we walked through the brewery, and they have a space. And I remember when we initially talked to them, they were going to rent that space out and do something else, and it just didn't make any sense. And Sue started going like, why didn't you tell members when they open breweries about the restaurant stuff? I'm like, oh shit, our camera just went out again. That camera is the most expensive camera of all our cameras, and it just seems to want to do its own thing. So we may have to rethink our cameras. Anyway, she's like, and I'm like, oh.
Why don't you tell breweries about restaurant stuff?
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, is this good or bad? She's like, it turns out, she's like, it's good, but it's tough work. But I'm like, we do always tell breweries because they talk about, having food trucks. And I'm like, and my question is always to anyone, if there is a place that has consistent food trucks where you feel like you can always guarantee that you're going to get something, even if the food truck is like East Indian cuisine and one of the people in your parties doesn't like that, there's something they can eat. That doesn't happen even just with one food truck. I like the variety, right? But it's never, even for the consumer, it's never a seamless thing, right? Unless you've gotten experience with this. Maybe in a different
The only different / kind of experience like that works constantly is Flying Basset, where they opened with a kitchen.
That's a captive kitchen, though.
Yes, I mean, it's a kitchen that's always there. It's always got the same menu, but it's run by someone else.
Yeah, but the kitchen isn't going to drive away. And the kitchen isn't going to say, we got a flat, and then you read on social media they found some other festival. Because that happens, right?
All the time.
So
food trucks are inherently a lot of work for breweries to manage and inconsistent in their delivery of product and in their appearance at all.
Yeah. So anyway, we wonder why our shows are always an hour or longer.
I know.
Why.
We weren't even going to talk about this at all.
But she takes me to the space. She's like, oh yeah, it's why more breweries should do it. Is her point.
Should have
a lot
food.
of work. Yeah.
Yes.
But we walk into the space, and it's all set up, and
which is exactly what we were talking about at our meeting with NAU.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know. I guess, sorry. Thank you for
all coming together.
Taking the thoughts in my head and coaxing them out. Yes, that is part of the curriculum that we want to introduce to our members. The not so terribly hard addition of hospitality elements, including food, right?
Yes.
Not just the food.
Yes.
And bringing in a cadre of people who are enthusiastic, who are skilled in areas that most people who started breweries in a certain area didn't have to contend with.
And who are probably a little more in touch with trends than me.
Yeah. Well, and in this time of inflation and cost controls and things like that, where, I mean, that wasn't something you could be bleeding out of one end in, 5 years ago and still be doing all right because you had all kinds of cash coming in, you had customers come in, there was excitement. But now you have to find the people who can identify those kinds of things. And that's what these people went to school for. And again, they're going to bring new energy. I don't know if I talk a lot about the investment curve idea that Doug Velicki introduced, where 2013 through 2018, Ballast Point was selling for $1 billion, a remarkable and unattainable amount, complete uncurbed enthusiasm that in the long run didn't necessarily make sense. But that's the point we're all at. And as we headed into COVID and there was seems like a lot of loss of direction, and the thing became top heavy. We had all kinds of crazy beers. We had people doing things that didn't make, people making batches of beer that you look at the recipe and you're like, they cannot possibly be making out of the money. And then they put it in cans. Right?
And then they put it in cans.
Because
they're like, oh, this didn't make any money, but it sure does taste good.
Everybody loved it. Yeah, it was crazy. But and then we got into COVID and everyone's investment, emotional investment, psychological investment kind of waned. And that's where, if you were in this era, like most of us, that's where you're at. You're like, oh, wow, things are going to level off. It's going
to be a more mature business model.
Right.
Oh, what? That's what I hear every single day.
I see potential in the future, but is that a 3, 5, 10, 15 year curve? I don't know. But you have people who are new to the industry who see things, and their enthusiasm is, I can help fix this. I have an idea about that. And that's what we need.
We do, yeah.
So
it's true.
Anyway, those are the two things that tied together as I walked into this space, hearing Stu, having our meeting, and they had this room, and it's all set up for 60, 70 people to enjoy some sort of program, and it's Arizona Talks, and I had met Carlos Alfaro years ago. I did some talks with him before the pandemic, and it was cool and all. I did something, and then I remember doing a prohibition talk and talking about Arizona being in prohibition a lot earlier. We did that at Helio Basin, so that should sort of place it in time. And I go and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, Rusty Bowers is coming to this, and Fred Duvall, who ran for governor, Yasmin Ansari, and Marcelino Quinones, two state representatives, and Stephen Richier. And I see someone walk in. I'm like, this is a left and right group of people. This is not Barry Markson. Did I say that? KTAR, legal analyst, sometimes host. But these are people who fall across different areas of the left and right spectrum. And they were going to, and the whole premise was things are different now, and we have to come to an agreement on how we can
accomplish things,
work together, and ordinarily this would have been something I would have been on my radar and I would have stuck with. I had to leave because I got stuff going on outside of my job, and I just had to get some things done. So, but anyway, I connected with a lot of these folks, and the last time we ran into Rusty Bowers, I said, hey, the last time we talked, I thanked you for what you had done, and especially the enthusiasm he has for the water conservation thing. That was something at the Audubon Society, right? And you said clearly that you're not a consumer of our products, and I understand that, but you are a consumer of our hospitality, and thank you for being at another brewery function. He laughed. So I'm very excited about that because I had no idea that the trajectory and the caliber of production that Carlos has put on. So we had a talk, and maybe we'll get him on our show.
Cool.
Maybe we'll be on their stuff. But because they now only use breweries for these kinds of things, Megan Greenwood is involved with the organization.
Now they only use breweries for what kinds of things?
For their presentations.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
How'd you find that out?
Because I was there and I talked to Carlos.
He said we only use breweries?
Yeah. You would have thought maybe my breweries would have told me that, but.
Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
So, Andrew, get off the floor. So it's all good. It's all promising. But these are the kind of policy people that I deal with, not in one room. So this is great, to get things, for our organization done. Who was there? Jim from Walter Station was there randomly, and Jennifer just randomly. And I can't remember. It was very surreal. But they're like, "Did you plan on being here?" Like, I say, "Listen, when we get out of the office, we sometimes do a little circuit. We try to hit places we haven't been in a while. I haven't been in a while, and I've been to, nothing like this happened at the last 2 places I went to. Whatever. This is the way it works. This is part of the job, and this is the bonus. Sometimes on a random Tuesday night, you run into and you have
a room full of policymakers
and some of your brewers, and some of your brewers, right? Which is great. So we had a chance to catch up, talk, but that's that's better than emails and talks in front of groups sometimes. So it was great.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, between all these little spots, we went from Phoenix Beer Co.
in Scottsdale
to Trevor's. We parted ways. I went to 100 Mile Brewing Company, and I'm listening to podcasts, right? And our friend John Hall has many podcasts.
Should we maybe take a break?
I want to set it up, but yeah.
Okay.
We can set it up. He has many podcasts. One is called Steal the Spear. It is with Augie Carton, and it was kind of one of these kinds of shows where it's just a bunch of random topics based on listener mail. I think they only answered 2 letters because at the heart of it, and it's something we touched on in several of our shows, is what is going on in New Jersey. And I got permission from John Hall to use some of the audio. I looked at, 10 minutes of audio. I'm like, well, we can't really just play 10 minutes audio. So we'll try to put the clips into the show and react to them. Hopefully there won't be any feedback. We've never done anything that is sort of live. I would like to have more of that where maybe you tape a segment, we watch it, we react, whatever.
Sure,
same
great.
thing. So this is a test, but that's the setup. That's the premise. That's what happens in one day, and some of it is driving, and then some of it is like, oh my God, this is like, so the news out of New Jersey is so galling. I literally got on the phone with John Hall. I was like, I got to be able to use some of this. This is completely nuts. And we went around a 3-way text with Augie, and this is what I'm allowed to do. So we'll take a break.
Okay, we'll take a break.
Because I'm still like, now I'm mad. And I'm out of coffee. No, there's coffee in here. Yeah. All right. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. So I don't know if I played this for you. This is the news music I wanted to use, but it's kind of too distracting. If you ever seen broadcast news, yeah. It's kind of large. Big finish. That's how I wanted to use for our news, segment. But I guess we're back.
Oh, that sounds great.
We didn't open our beers.
Yeah.
And I have coffee and beer, which is wonderful. It's a Pilsner, too.
Yes, I got what you wanted at this point of the day.
So I was in Phoenix Magazine. I didn't feel like it.
Oh, yeah.
I had some photos it's like you do something and then it comes out later. And there's an interview, and I literally just talked for like an hour and a half, 90 minutes. I'm like, listen, you have questions, whatever. I don't know how you're gonna make sense of this. I'm sure you're recording this. I'm just gonna start talking, and you know what? Let's make sure that you cover everything here. And like, I have no idea how it's gonna come out. I'm sure it'll be fine, which it was. I mean, like, I think there was one factual error. Like, I think it's in there that we have 85 brewers, and I said I think it was 85 plus the 30 or so that when I started. Whatever, we didn't actually come up with that number. So it says 85, and there's more, but it's not a big deal, right?
Right.
But the photos look great, I think. So if you are a subscriber, it's out. If you're not a subscriber, I don't think they're in stores yet. I just want to find one copy for my parents. And they'll never read it because the type is too small, I'm sure. But
Well, we had one copy here.
yeah, I know. I took it home.
Yeah.
To show Brenda. But in that, I mentioned to get around what's your favorite beer? I said, I'm just going to tell you what I'm drinking right now. And it happened to be Oro's coffee, Cafe Oro, their coffee blonde. And, you know, and I described, it's like, it smell coffee. Like we're doing a morning podcast, so coffee is appropriate. And then you have this relaxing beer. So
Right behind.
start of work, end of work, put them together, coffee aroma, and it doesn't change the color. I know I'm drinking, if you're on the video, I'm drinking out of a can. It's a Dragoon Pills. Not the same concept, but like coffee pails, coffee IPAs. I don't know if I could ever do we'll have to see a coffee Pilsner. I think that might be a bridge too far, but we'll see. Like, if anyone wants to make a coffee Pilsner with me, let me know.
Give it a shot.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just trying to tie things together. But I teased Augie Carton from Steal the Spear podcast. Augie Carton owns Carton Brewing Company, highly regarded brewery. I have not had their things yet. Oh, no, I take that back. I had one of their Rauch beers at CBC in Nashville.
Oh.
They did Camp Rauch beer. And
I
went to that. There was like a bunch. So I have, but he has a couple standards that do pretty well for him. And I had dinner with him then too. But, interesting guy. But he said, as long as you'll promote my beer, I'm like, yes, the lucrative New Jersey to Arizona pipeline is yours. So he goes on for a while to sort of set up what's going on in New Jersey. I think we've talked about it several times. We'll try to encapsulate it because I don't think he uses a lot of spare words. I think he's talked about it many times.
I mean, it's right in his face every day.
Right. And you should listen to the podcast to
crazy.
get the whole thing in context, especially the part about how he hadn't had a lot to eat and he was having drinks for the show. And sometimes I knowing they do just 2 or 3 shows in a day.
This was their second show of the day, yeah.
Yeah. So you sort of need that context because he nails it. He has the right amount of outrage and calm demeanor, which in real life doesn't always happen with him, as my understanding and in my listening experience. But instead of just putting 10 minutes, I have 2 clips, but listen to it because he does a much better job. But essentially, last July, the week before the 4th of July, or the week of 4th of July, effective July, the Department of Liquor, they call it ABC, the Alcohol
Beverage Commission.
Yeah, or control, whatever. Put out a statement that said, even though during COVID, you could do these things and leading up to, but those were just things that we allowed you to do, but here's the policy and here's how it has to happen. And it was basically, at a minimum, a brewery could only serve beer to the consumers under limited hours and conditions that required a tour. And that's the way it was years ago, but having been to New Jersey once on one of the BA tours when we were got to see a couple of breweries, they had relaxed those things quite a bit, even on that tour. And as a result of some of these struggles, they ended up fracturing off into 2 different guilds. So the one that we are familiar with is Eric Orlando, the executive director. He's on many of our calls. That is the Brewers Guild of New Jersey. There was a fracture between some of the established breweries and some of the newer taproom model breweries.
And
they
Cape
started,
May.
yeah, that whole thing.
I remember now.
And it's the New Jersey Brewers Association. However, the one that Eric Orlando heads is the more traditionally lobbying functioning group, right, to change state laws, and that's, that's the hard work. Not taking away from anyone else who starts an organization, but you need a singular voice on those issues, and anytime there's a competition to be the voice of that, anyone who's opposed to you will exploit the hell out of that.
Right.
Like, why would you want a broker deal when they don't have everybody on board? And they don't even need a majority. It could, like, depending on how they frame it, like it could be 2 members out of 150 or whatever they have. So anyway, the restrictions, I mean, you couldn't have a TV because sports might be on, and you needed to do a special event license.
You had to have a special permit just to show the game on TV.
Right.
Yeah. You can't do trivia.
Right. And it wasn't like hey, I just want to play ESPN all day. It had to be specific time. We were only watching men's collegiate hockey in this particular game. You couldn't coordinate with a food truck.
Oh, and you can only get 28 of those a year?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, like NBA Finals, World Series, Super Bowl. What do you got? Like 13 left?
Not even.
In the world of sports?
No. It's constant. I mean, you're not even talking hockey. People on the East Coast, they watch hockey.
That's true. I'm just saying, like, your major events that occur across a week or month.
What happens when the U.S. hockey team gets into the Olympics?
Yeah. What happens if you want to show, like, a high school football game?
Can't do it. Can't do it.
College
bud.
World Series.
Sorry,
Little
can't
League
do
game.
it, bud.
I love watching those things.
Get out of here. It's Jersey. You can't have that. Can't have it. Could not serve coffee.
Coffee.
Only water and beer.
In the meantime, a brewery had started as a coffee roaster and offered coffee, and I imagine they would probably be the ones that would make me my coffee pilsner if I wanted to have that, right? So
that's a tough answer considering it's New Jersey.
Literally, what is going on here? Camera just had a number 2 on it for some reason. Anyway, literally, Augie talks about the fact that he's not equipped for people to bring food in, pizzas. His tables won't even allow you to, they're not big enough for a pizza. And he would so he's like, I'm kind of hedging my bets here because even though I'm getting ahead of myself. He's not equipped they weren't designed to bring food in. So you can't bring food in, even though one of the things that they tell you in all your liquor training, which was mandated, you had to take the state training in New Jersey. You don't have to do that in Arizona, a lot of states. You can train yourself. You should eat while you're consuming alcohol, but these things are forbidden under the new ABC rules that they were enforcing.
That you could not have
no yoga, no movie nights, no trivia.
No food trucks. We've already talked about this.
I know. Well, I'm just, this could be a one-off.
It also could be the first time someone's hearing our show.
Yeah. No. You can't have food in your brewery. If a food trucks can't even be in the parking lot because their presumption, this is literally what they said, is that you've coordinated with the food truck. What other things in there? I mean, that's quite a bit, but you couldn't serve anything but beer, no other drinks.
I don't know about the to-go, if they can sell beer to go.
I don't know, but they dropped all these things on the breweries, and they you need tours. I'm like, hey, we already got our staff. We're already staffed up. Do we have to dedicate some guy to take people on tours? So there was as you can imagine, there was quite a bit of controversy.
The licensing structure in New Jersey is very different from what we're used to. They don't have what we would call a number 12 restaurant license.
Right.
All they have is a number 6 bar license. So in our Arizona, it's determined by counties, but a number 6 bar license in Arizona costs about $150,000, give or take.
Yeah.
Up to 200, down to 125, whatever. I don't know.
Might be able to get one for $68,000 in La Paz County.
Right.
Because it's small.
And if you're in Jersey and you get one of these licenses, you're talking millions of dollars, right?
Potentially.
Yes.
Because
So-
there's the average, what you would get on if the state has extra licenses to give because of population change, they do a market average, and that's one price. But if you want to get a license and there's no licenses available, you literally have to buy out someone's business and their license. So it could cost millions.
So a casino has the same license to sell alcohol as any other place that serves on premise.
Yes.
Which is why you won't find beer in pizza places in Jersey.
We lost all kinds of cameras. So, yeah.
All right, well,
What were we at here?
we were saying how in Jersey you're not going to find a pizza place with selling beer with their pizza because it's just not a thing that they have the licensing structure to do in an economical way. Here it's $1,250 a year for a restaurant that serves 40% or more food to sell beer and wine on premise and spirits.
Right. And to give you an idea, if you're in the valley here, Boulders has a 12. They have a restaurant license.
Now you might think, wow, they are heavy on their spirits and beer sales. And they are, but they're not.
They serve a lot of food.
Yeah.
Another one is Hungry Monk. They may have changed that, but originally they just had a 12. And that sometimes dictates how you set up your restaurant. Hungry Monk, like one of the ways they discriminate the bar area of a restaurant from the restaurant area is this sort of pony wall.
And height of tables.
Yeah, height of tables.
One of my friends during COVID was accused of having their bar open when it is clearly a restaurant, but they do have a number 6. And the inspector said, look, I'm a regular. I know what you guys do. I know you're not a bar, but you need to have lower seating. You need to have tables and short chairs, not bar height tables.
Yeah, no, it was in our statutes too.
Isn't that wild?
It got relaxed. It was in our rules and got relaxed. Like literally to say you have a kitchen, and this actually relates to the things we talked about NAU because they're talking about these special ovens. It doesn't require a lot of utensils.
No venting.
Yeah, this is the same
No
system
grease trap. Yeah.
Starbucks is a restaurant. But like if you look at the rules that originally written, they literally said you have to have these kinds of pots, pans. There's no pots and pans in a Starbucks. There's no pots and pans in a lot of places. It was like all these things constitute what is legally a restaurant, and you should have. It wasn't a definitive list. It wasn't if you didn't have like 2 wooden spoons, you weren't a restaurant. But they look at all that stuff and they go, the preponderance of evidence says you're not a restaurant.
Right.
But
And
no,
then
a lot of
and
these
the
places-
sign. Does it say bar and grill?
Yeah.
Or does it just say grill?
Anyway, we're wrestling with this problem too to some degree.
We have a much better licensing opportunity scheme than they do in Jersey. They have very limited. Anyways,
Yeah. So
those license holders are incentivized to make sure they're the only place you can get booze.
right, and also food and coffee and trivia. I'm like, I don't know. Like they're really trying. This is they're really just protecting something that that in that case it was a direct result of prohibition. It was a way for people who are already in the liquor business. before Prohibition and during Prohibition to maintain their status. And so they wrote all the rules to protect those individuals who were very powerful in the political landscape.
Yes.
So all of this is just a vestige of that. And as is here, like, people who hold those licenses want those licenses to appreciate. They don't want them to depreciate. But at some point, somebody is working off this premise with a license that their grandfather bought for, a couple $100, and now it's $60,000 or $80,000 or $150,000
or $900,000 if it's a liquor store license, right?
Yeah. But again, if you're a major builder and you're ready to open, and there are no licenses available, like you're gonna spend maybe twice as much on that license as anyone else reasonably would, because like you got to get open. So anyway, that's sort of this how it's laid out. They sort of relaxed these. They were pushed back on. They relaxed these things for a time when they knew the legislature was attacking the problem. And they came to an agreement on basically going back to everything before all these rules. And it was unanimously voted on by the Senate and the General Assembly. And the distributors and the restaurant and other liquor license holders did not push back on it. They went neutral on the bill, which tells you they weren't really happy about it, but they saw the writing on the wall. Now, it sat in front of the governor's office to sign. He has not signed. He went and said, hey, this is great, but I really want you to fix the entire liquor license scheme.
Therefore, I will not take any action on this.
Yeah. You go
and it's
back.
Vetoed.
You go back in the legislature and you fix this, which it's not going to happen in this lame duck session. I believe, I'm not sure if it's this year or next year, but Governor Bill Murphy is termed out. So, I'm gonna play Augie Carton talking about what the motivation for the governor is. Like you got breweries, you got everybody who is against this silent. The legislature has come up with a plan that
overwhelmingly approved by both houses.
So here's Augie talking about
conspiracy theory hack, because I love this. Everybody I'm talking to of politic nature says the reason Murphy's doing this is not to get his big law passed, because he knows the big law will never pass. He knows that he needs attention on a national state, because his next job will either be as a New Jersey senator for the, for real Senate, or as
Menendez's
somebody,
spot.
or as somebody in the cabinet of the next Democratic president. Obviously, being an old Goldman guy, he's looking for the Treasury job.
Okay, so I just want to provide some context. Senator Menendez, Bob Menendez, is a Democratic senator who is under investigation for a lot of corruption right now. So that slot might be open. And when he's talking about Treasury and Goldman's, he's referring to the fact that Murphy has a history at Goldman Sachs. So often when you get to that point in state government, you got to go federal government, or you got to get a cabinet position. Very seldom do they go back to the state legislature or whatever. And he's termed out. At least you can only do two consecutive terms in New Jersey. So that's what Augie's talking about. And let me finish his.
And that won't happen if big beverage and big beverage distributors are mad at him. So this is his way of making sure nothing happens, so nobody's mad at him, in spite of a good ground roots thing happening. I can't tell you that's his intention. Maybe it's possible he believes he has the political wherewithal to actually do a sweeping improvement of all our bad laws. As a citizen, that's what I want. But as a small businessman, all I can tell you is, since these laws were passed and not approved by him, June 30th or whatever, 12 New Jersey breweries, mostly in the southern half of the state, have gone out of business.
I'm going to pause it there. We'll probably backtrack on that, but that's not a conspiracy theory. That is probably, very shrewd political power. Definitely, if the governor wanted to move to those positions, he would need the support of bigger industries like the restaurant license holders. They would be major fundraisers for a Senate campaign, which, I know Arizona's an outlier, but it's like millions of dollars, right? I think in total they're expecting our next Senate race to equal $1 billion in political spending. So these are highly resource intensive things, right? So it's likely he throws the distributors in, and I don't know what their role is. We talked a little bit about this. Like, why would the distributors be against having these breweries having its rights? I mean, dogmatically, they're always against things like this because they don't want to change the status quo. I don't know that they're married to like fighting against this. I think they are seen probably by the license holders of the restaurants. Hey, you guys got to help us, and they're probably going to go like, "Oh, we'll help you a little bit." But I do want to say it's not unusual for one person to hold up a major piece of legislation like this for reasons that were just outlined. When we passed SB 1030, it was signed fairly quickly by the governor. He was behind the scenes involved with the bill. That was the bill where we said, hey, a brewery can go beyond 40,000 barrels and still have restaurants. And we got some other things involved, for small breweries in that bill. But there was at least one brewery who was against it. And I've seen the receipts. They were telling the opposition some of our strategy, and also their distributor, who's no longer around, one of their employees lobbied the governor to veto the bill. So these things can happen with one or two people.
Right.
In that case, it wasn't successful. It was kind of laughable because the allies of those people like, hey, you should know this, Rob. Here, take a look at these emails.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that doesn't sound like a New Jersey kind of thing where people leave evidence like that around. So that is completely a realistic thing. It's not a conspiracy theory. If you have a termed out governor and they have nowhere to go, and I don't know Governor Murphy's performance on any of the issues, but it's extremely unlikely that he would have the confidence to veto this bill to completely overhaul a licensing system. Like, these are real properties. You're literally saying, all you people with $1 million homes.
Right. We're taking away all your titles
Yeah.
and just work it out between yourselves.
Yeah. It's not going to happen. I don't know if he covered it in the quote, but those transactions between licenses do not benefit the taxpayer.
Right.
Like, if you have $1 million license and I buy it for $150 million, none of that goes back into the tax base. You just profited from a license that you might have paid. You might have paid $300 million. Probably not. Doesn't matter. You probably paid less. And that's how real property works, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not questioning. I'm not saying everybody should live in the same type of home and all that stuff. But for it to be a function of our government to create winners and losers like that, it's tough. And also, once you go down that road, it's really hard to get back. Like, anyone who has the desire to fix that understands that it's not an easy thing. People who have things are going to have to let go of them. People who want those things are going to have to get less, even in a compromise, right?
Well, I mean, there certainly should be a system. There should be a way to make that work. But I mean, the fact is, when you have laws that are on the books for that long, people are kind of bought into that system. And once it's really, really hard because the people that own those licenses have some money and have the ability to fight. Whereas the people that don't have the licenses and are saying, this is crazy, it's insanely expensive to get into the industry, want to start a new business, they don't have the resources to make that fight happen.
A real life example of this happening in our recent couple of years that is similar to this and with not the same impact, but when the cocktails to go thing happened, the group that was responsible for representing the license holders didn't want these other businesses to get that right, in their words, for free, because getting that for free would devalue the value of their licenses. So once they understood that this was going to happen in some fashion, they worked towards making it very objectionable or difficult.
They created a very hazardous-filled path to make that happen.
So in order to get that license, you had to buy those rights off another licensee so that licensee would be somehow compensated. And it just made it difficult and expensive to get. And
a very stupid solution.
So now I don't know if there's any stomach for it. But
we don't need to do it.
No,
it doesn't affect our
no.
members, but
No,
it's a stupid solution.
Well, when you're sitting in a room and you're like, this is not the answer, and you just have to wait it out. It's very frustrating. It's super frustrating, and it's really transparent what was going on. Like, it's great. You're gonna make this really hard to and now we're gonna eat up some cycles next time to sort of fix it or whatever, or jettison it, and we all lose esteem to get these things done with our legislators. Like, they're like, you guys came up with this. If it didn't work, why are you wasting our time with it, right?
Yeah, the only upside to that whole thing, and currently it's not legal, would be to go cocktails, but also 6 packs of beer from restaurants. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So, but that's not allowed now. So
I'm going to play the rest of Augie's comment here, and we'll.
As a citizen, that's what I want. But as a small businessman, all I can tell you is, since these laws were passed and not approved by him, June 30th or whatever, 12 New Jersey breweries, mostly in the southern half of the state, have gone out of business. There's 150 breweries in New Jersey. So near 10% of the breweries in New Jersey have closed in the 4 months this has been sitting on his desk, not approved. These laws would have saved those breweries. That's a big fucking deal. So right now I'm at that weird, so frustrated. I hope I'm talking sense here, but right now I'm so frustrated about this. It's really hard for me to talk about because it's just a mess.
Okay. So he states that this law would have potentially helped 12 breweries. I can't draw that. I can't connect that dot one to one, but I mean, certainly it is a figure. It is a piece of data.
If there were breweries that were struggling and they saw this bill as potentially a lifeline to help them get back into good, and then saw it die, maybe they just said, screw it, I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially a lot of those 12 breweries that closed could have had that.
Yeah. I mean, there's no telling, like, hey, my time horizon is, not worth it. As opposed to it's, I don't know that it was literally like, well, we're waiting for that change because someone's going to come in with a pizza and then we'll be saved.
It's the other things too. It's look, our business had built up as this neighborhood spot where people go and they bring their food, or we have a food truck and we've got some sports on TVs, and it's a little neighborhood hangout. And since I can't have my TVs on anymore and I can't have that food truck. Right. It's really slashed the number of people who are potential customers for me.
Sure. And it's starved their customer base's enthusiasm for helping change this law, because I'm sure they went through a lot.
They put a lot of effort to get it in. Yeah.
And people are going to be cynical about politics, which is a shame, because, that's not how it has to be. So where do they go from here? Well, he can still sign the bill. They're still trying to get him to sign the bill. And so as an organized sort of prospect, they they put together these fundraisers and awareness campaigns to say, hey, sign the bill. And like Augie talks about a group project called Hey Phil, Sign the Bill as a beer, which I think is brilliant, whoever came up with that. But here's where the pushback happens again. So remember, this is a function, ABC is a function, an executive function of the governor's office. And he kind of threw his hands up like, hey, I can't do anything. Let the legislator figure it out. And they came back with a solution, and he's like,
fix it all, not
fix it
just
all.
this.
Yeah,
we can't
congratulations.
just half fix it.
Right.
We have to all the way.
Help me feel good about signing this bill. You guys do the work again, and let's get this done. So this is where we're at. But here's the galling. This almost caused me to drive off the road. I was so angry about this. So and consider. Well, we'll talk about it.
Let's
let go. I know. That one's going. That one's going. All right.
But here's the thing I wanted to introduce that just happened that is so patently gross, it's unbelievable.
Okay.
Just to be clear, the ABC is part of the executive branch of the New Jersey government. So the ABC, who is deciding what their job is through no legal mandate, works in the governor's department. So when the governor says, I can't do anything about these dumb restrictions, it's his department making them. He could say, don't do this till it's fixed. And what happened effectively is when these laws passed and he started doing this, basically the ABC said, well, let's see what happens. We won't enforce the dumb interpretations we've done for the rest of the year. So theoretically, if you take that at face value, I could be doing the events I want to do for the next 4 months. But then it's possible everything goes back because the law didn't pass and the ABC takes that as a hint. They were right, and it really does matter that I can't serve you coffee I brewed for your wife who doesn't drink beer. Again, that's a real policy they came up with. That being said, a bunch of the brewers in the New Jersey Brewers, I can't remember which one's the guild or the association.
Okay, so this is Eric Orlando and the Brewers Guild of New Jersey. That is leading the charge on this. It's confusing because there's also the New Jersey Brewers Association, but that's the clarity I'll give you. Please listen on.
But the longer running of the two did a thing. They were doing a charity beer or whatever, a fundraising beer called Sign the Bill Phil. It was this cute little label with the kid from the ABC After School Special.
Oh yeah.
You know, Bill on Capitol
just
Hill
a
label.
bill. Yeah.
And the idea was that 25% of the proceeds of that beer would go to lobbying Phil to sign the bill. Now, Augie Carton didn't play in that because I see what's going on politics-wise, and I can't see any money paid to lobby Phil on this changing anything. Now, I'm usually very involved in these things. I believe we need to lobby. I believe we need to play the course. We can't all just stomp our feet and scream like I do. Everybody needs to do their role, and we have a great lobbyist in the form of Eric Orlando and the Guild. That being said, I 100% didn't believe this had any potential, so I stayed out of it. Now, we recently got an email from the ABC, all of us, that saying that on the can is against the law, which everybody's done a charity beer. We know we've all done it, but they're saying that only the owners of a brewery can benefit from the sale of a beer, as is written in the coded law. So if you say 25% of our profits or 25% of our proceeds or whatever for this is going to go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, they're saying you broke the law because that's a commitment of profits to a non-owner. Everybody's done this in New Jersey for the last 12 years I've been in this business. This is the first time they've ever pointed that out. So the same guy who says he has no control over his department had his department interpret it this way to impede and make. So anybody that printed that label up that puts a beer out now is subject to a fine. So everybody's got to reorganize, refigure, and all this. And it's literally the wording on it, which is 25% of the proceeds from this beer will go to lobby to get the bill signed by Governor Murphy. That rule just came down from the ABC. It's completely fucking absurd to me because I'm allowed to do whatever I want with my profits.
Yeah.
Right. And because it's the ABC in New Jersey, because there's no First Amendment with the ABC in New Jersey, they'll just, if I write that on a can, they'll just hand me a $10,000 fine I can't get around.
All right. So that, I mean, you know, he goes on and there's a little more swearing, but that's incredibly, I can't even believe that's something they would take the time to do as a government agency to literally protect the governor's flank on this.
You can't believe it, huh?
No,
Okay.
no, because I mean, it's one of those things. Like clearly, they want this to go away, and upsetting and threatening with fines people who are for this bill just adds more tension to it. So I'm adding more tension to this.
Yeah,
right. Like the fines are designed to stop the breweries from complaining about the governor's lack of performance and to fulfill the will of the legislative body and these 150 breweries. So the inaction is saying that none of you matter. I can wait this out. So when they say, well, we still have our voice for the New Jersey Liquor Department through the governor's office to say, no, you don't, is completely insulting.
It's wild.
Yeah, I can't imagine if that. I mean, we had our struggles with our bills, but I can't imagine they would use the liquor department to stifle our political voice.
Right.
That's incredible. And Augie's right. They don't have to follow. Their mission is determined by them. There's no guardrails around that. And if the governor, as an executive, lets that go.
And he already said,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know. They just do their thing. It's not on me.
Yeah.
When it clearly is.
Yeah.
They have an appointed director?
I don't know who this director is. Like when this first started, it was kind of like, hey, look at how incredibly uncool another part of the country is. And, I mean, everybody makes fun of New Jersey, whether you know anything about New Jersey or not, right? Like it's
true. Yeah.
There was a little bit of schadenfreude about it, but not really. I just, it is a cautionary tale because like it could happen in a lot of different places, like the whole, we've talked about how some of these things could happen in our legislature, in the governor's office, by the way of appointments, political parties looking for divisive issues that are not related to policy one-to-one with anyone's political platform. It's just a way to get people riled up on one side or the other. We know all these things can happen in Arizona, obviously. So, I just hope that everyone listening has an understanding of how tenuous some of this stuff is and how important supporting these breweries and their organizations that fight for the rights are important. It's like I casually say funny things like, "Hey, I'm at the state legislature. I'm fighting for your rights to party," but it's literally true.
Can you imagine though? One of the very important tenets for our breweries right now is that many, and I'm talking like over 50% of our breweries, their business is driven by events. Like if you don't have events, you have an empty house. And a night when you have an event is going to be your busiest night. So they're constantly working to draw people in with new events, whether it's live music or karaoke night or trivia or whatever. A painting, do you do the paint a picture and drink a couple beers? That is what keeps many of our breweries' doors open. If you took all of that away and just said you can no longer have events at your brewery,
yeah,
and they determine what is an event,
sure,
we would have a slew of breweries absolutely closing their doors within months.
Yeah, and none of these things are put the public at risk.
Right.
It's not like flip the script. Like we're a escape the room business, and we want everyone to do like shots of grain alcohol, and we don't have a liquor license. But like, hey man, you're trampling on my business. It's not like that at all. It's like we're adding things that are contrary to what our adversaries would try to capture as the alcohol industry. Like that, we're just here to get people fucked up
and drawing criminals.
Yeah. The whole thing, the whole entire premise
Criminals.
of putting all the guardrails around us, right?
You know where I got that criminals line? Is why they couldn't open the brewery in Payson. Because it would attract a criminal element. And this is in the 90s.
Yeah.
Not in the 1800s.
Andrew's doing some research on breweries, and every once in a while he'll sort of utter a phrase from the very well done Ed Sipos book. It's and here's the thing, and I'm sure it's true in New Jersey. No restaurants and bars of a certain type were not supporting the trivia industry, right? These are things that are mostly the tools of craft beer industry, breweries, and also craft beer bars, right? But like your typical old man bar isn't doing karaoke.
Chili's isn't doing a trivia night.
Yeah, they're not doing goat yoga. They're not doing yoga. They're not doing. I mean, it's you might have some argument on some sports, but really, I mean, we're all fighting to get people out of their homes and stopping streaming stuff and ordering DoorDash, right? Like that's.
I hope we're not still trying to fight that, because that fight's already over. People are now in their new groove, and they're doing what they're doing.
No, I'm saying we all would prefer that people do less of that, because bringing people into bars, restaurants, breweries, wineries, distilleries are good for our industry in particular, but good for the economy in general. You got 1,000 other businesses that are benefiting from people getting out of their houses, right?
Sure, for sure.
So, it's just completely dumbfounding to me. And I know we've talked about this. We've talked about New Jersey a lot for a show that's based in Arizona. But again, I can relate almost everything that was talked about here to something that occurred. May not have seen the light of day, but they're always trying. They're always trying to introduce these ideas. And sometimes you just have to say, hey, you need to stop using that rhetoric, because I've seen where this goes. Of course, I mean, we have an interest in protecting the value of some of our licenses, because a lot of our breweries are license holders in the same licenses. But let's be realistic about it, right? I mean, let's be.
I mean, their licensing scheme sucks.
Yeah. Oh, theirs is completely bonkers.
And it's not going to change.
Yeah.
But
if you inherit your Uncle Vito's Pizzeria in New Jersey, and he doesn't have a liquor license, you're going to go there and like, this is incredibly dumb. I want to bring some wine and beers to this pizzeria, and like I got to spend $800,000 on a license. That's crazy. With 25 seats, never going to happen.
Well, the other thing is, are craft breweries really affecting the sales of wine, spirits, and beer at those licensees? It doesn't seem like it.
No, I mean, as it stands right now, the pull-through on some restaurants is not a lot of cases of beer.
No.
But they do the easy thing probably because of the distribution system. Like, they pull a case here, a case there, their variety isn't there. I mean, I would prefer they use Arizona, but I understand sometimes why they don't, especially if they're relying on, our small breweries are not equipped to deliver to 75 restaurants a case at a time, Mike, right? Nevertheless, I think there can be some great arrangements with nearby places, but yeah, I mean, nobody's winning the day on this except for a handful of super powerful license holders. So,
and I don't think they're really winning much on it. I don't understand what the motivation is.
Yeah.
Other than them saying, yeah, we just don't want it.
Well, when you have the power to do that, it's very it's very compelling to not use that argument. Like, I can just say, no, here's some money, make it go away.
Yeah.
Here's some money, an inconsequential amount to me.
Right.
And my friends. So, yeah. Anyway.
There's a lot of Jersey talk.
Yeah, I know.
Man.
So, there's just coming up here, there's it's going to be difficult to get our next show off because I'm going to be in Belgium.
You're going to Belgium. I'm going to Tucson tomorrow. It's going to be tough for me to really connect.
No. So I'm going to try to do some videos. We'll try to figure something out, but it might be we might not have a show next week. Our 65 episode streak might come to an end, but we'll see. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to pull this trip off. We had some other things going on, and as it stands right now, we still have some work to do on getting from town to town. But we're going to fly into Paris, take the train to Brussels, spend some time there. I have a Cantillon tour set up. We're going to go to Ghent, and we have a Rodenbach tour at some part of the week. And then we have a lot of blanks to fill in, and we got to get back to Paris. So, and it still might not happen. But we had some things that we had to take care of with the family.
It still might not happen.
I don't know.
It's tomorrow.
I know. Hey, you're talking to the guy that put together a Chicago trip at 11:30, got on a plane at 3 o'clock.
Make it happen.
I know, we're going to make it happen. So that's what you may not be able to look forward to next week. We'll see. You might just see a couple videos, maybe a short report. I don't know. Like, does it count as an episode? When does it count as an episode? It has to go an hour or hour-ish. 28 minutes?
28 minutes counts.
Yeah.
That's the cutoff.
All right.
27? No.
All right. So
that's it.
That's it. Cheers.
Oh, cheers. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Hold on. Oh, boy.
The beer did not. Sometimes the beer
escapes you.
Cheers.